I've tried a lot of footwear in the outdoors, but there's a few key things you need to look for when making a selection that's right for you. On this episode, I'm going to show you how to pick a trail runner for backpacking and hiking, as well as how to avoid the biggest problem with trail runners that most people don't even know about. And the answer is yes. I am wearing rubber boots with a giant hole in it because I don't have any shoes left to wear because they're all up here. What we've got here is a selection of road running shoes that goes into trail running shoes and then more aggressive trail running shoes with a few hiking boots at the end. But first, let's go somewhere quieter we can actually talk. So over at the hillside now, what I've got here is all my trail runners ranked from my favorite on the left to my least favorite on the right here. And my boots at the top there as I use those in certain special situations. Now, when it comes to picking a trail runner, there's a few factors you have to look at. So first off is how much cushion is in the shoe and how much cushion you need. This is something you'll have to test out for yourself. Next, we have the drop. So the drop is the distance from the heel to the toe. How much is the heel raised? In this case, this one is an 8mm drop. It's 8mm higher on this side than this side. Next up is there a rock plate? Is there a plate underneath here that absorbs the impact of rocks? And do you need a rock plate? Next thing is it waterproof? Once again, this is situational. And finally is the grip. What kind of grip does it have? How big are the lugs? How aggressive is the grip and how sticky is it? And how fast does it wear off? So first off, when we're looking at cushion, let's compare this one here, which is the Merrow FST Moab, I believe it's called. This one has a lot of cushion. You can see though it has a big flare on the heel. Now this one, the Topo MT4, you can see has much less cushion. This one though will absorb more impact, and you can see it has a bit of a rocker design to it. So it's more of just a trial thing to see what your legs and your body likes better. With less cushion, you're gonna have more tactile feel for your toes on the ground. So it's a bit of a trade-off. With more cushion, you don't feel the rocks underneath. Thus, I would say it's a little bit more dangerous. It's not quite as good as having a thinner shoe when you're doing dangerous scrambling. On the other hand, if you're doing long days where you're gonna be doing some running, some fast packing, or just a lot of hiking, you would probably want a more cushioned shoe. When it comes to cushioning, these Skechers Go Run with these M Strike definitely have the most cushion of any shoe I've ever tried. The problem with this is it's easier to rock your ankle and potentially roll it when you have so much cushion. It rocks this way, but it also rocks this way. So I don't really recommend shoes like this that have so much cushioning that they're lifting your foot up so high that you can roll your ankle easier. So next up we have the drop of the shoe, and what we have here is a comparison 3mm, 8mm. It's hard to see, but you can definitely see the thickness here is less than here, although this one has more cushioning too. Now you might be asking, David, why do I need to worry about drop? What is the drop of a shoe? Well, the drop of the shoe is the heel's distance off of the ground. A major problem we've had in society is that shoes were designed with these lifted heels. Then we spend day after day after day wearing shoes where our heel's lifted. And over the course of 10, 20, 30, 40 years in my case, I've been wearing shoes where my heel was lifted an extra, centimeter. And your Achilles tendon tends to shrink just to kind of accommodate that because I'm not walking around barefoot. The result of this is often people get a lot of ankle pain, foot pain. Sometimes it radiates up their leg. They're getting IT band pain or any sorts of pain, and they don't know why. And it's often because the shortened Achilles has been trained like that, and it doesn't want to be like that. Naturally, our feet should be landing on the ground, our toes splayed out with our foot on the ground. That's why you see this movement towards zero drop barefoot shoes. Now, when you're going hiking the long distances, barefoot shoes, they really hurt. Like, I've done some hikes on it. I actually ran into a guy up on Mount Olympus in Colorado that was hiking barefoot, but very few people can do that. And that guy, in that case, he spent all day, every day for 2 years in Hawaii walking around barefoot. So he had big, thick calluses. Now, if you don't have problems with your feet, maybe you don't want to mess with the drop of your shoes. Someone like me, where I always have problems with my Achilles are way too tight, and they're just messed up because they shrunk over the years, I'm transitioning down to a zero drop myself, which is why I'm using those Topo Athletic ones that are 3mm. The typical hiking shoe is like 8 to 12. So you kind of want to half the number as your transition. You definitely want to transition this, go on some simple nature walks that are like not even a kilometer when you're transitioning, and then you can work into bigger hikes. I say Achilles, but really there's a whole bunch of muscles in the legs that are all affected by this. So if you're someone who does have ankle or leg or foot pain, consider working your way to a zero drop shoe. Next up, let's talk about rock plates. Now, most of my shoes here don't have rock plates. A rock plate is a plate that goes on the bottom of the shoe here, or in this case, the boot, and it runs along the bottom there to prevent your foot from getting owned when you step on rocks. This one is very rigid and it doesn't flex at all when it goes over rocks, so I'm pretty sure this one has one. In comparison, this other boot, you can see here, definitely not a rock plate in there. The main thing to consider about rock plates is you lose your ability for your foot to curve around the surfaces, so it's less comfortable over a long day, and also it gives you less tactile feel on the ground. It does allow you to jam your toe into crevices and step on rocks, and it's not gonna really jam your foot. If you've ever stepped on a rock that's sharp and you don't have a rock plate, you know what that feels like. It's just like a rock just wham. So you can see here, these Innovates really flex, right? Where the Hokas, they don't. They have a carbon fiber rock plate in there, so it's really light, but it also allows you to take direct impact right into the sole and it doesn't hurt your foot. In general, most of my shoes there don't have rock plates except for I think 2 of them. So I would only use those Hokas or those boots on scree days where, like in Canadian Rockies, there's just tons of scree. I know all day I'm gonna be on rock, that's when I'll bring out those. But same thing with the Moab Flights and the Topos, no rock plate. In general, I'd say you don't need to look at getting rock plates unless you live in, say, Alberta or maybe Colorado, places where with a lot of rocky terrain. Where I live here on Vancouver Island, while there is some rocky terrain, it's just never the majority of the trail. So I'd rather have a lighter, more flexible shoe than one that's stiff and rigid. Next, we're going to talk about shoes being waterproof and whether you need that. So from my array here, the only ones that are waterproof are these 2 boots, which are both Gore-Tex. Now you can see here, once your boots split like this, that waterproof Gore-Tex doesn't do anything anymore. So the only ones that are actually waterproof that I have left are these ones. In general, I'd say stay away from getting Gore-Tex shoes or boots. You don't need them. I'll do an entire video on this later, but basically your foot ends up trapping more moisture in the boot than you're going to keep out, unless you're crossing a lot of rivers or something. But even then, there's other solutions you can get than having a Gore-Tex boot. And when it comes down to it, the only time I use boots is in the winter time, and that's really the only time you'd want Gore-Tex, is when you have snow on your boots that would slowly seep in because you're having that wet snow on your boot all day long. So otherwise, if you're in the summertime, spring, fall, it's best to just use trail runners and don't worry about them being Gore-Tex. One of the main problems with a Gore-Tex shoe is the water then doesn't dry out of the shoe. So if you get it wet and you don't have a gaping hole like that, then your shoe just doesn't dry out. Where a normal shoe like this one's meant to get soaked and it will dry out quickly. This one even has, you can see here, these spots here are meant so you can drill holes in there with a drill bit, and that allows you to drain water out of these. It shouldn't come as any surprise that these are called the Saucony Mad Rivers. These are designed to go through water and drain and dry quickly. So that's another thing to look at. If you are doing lots of river crossings, maybe look at getting something like this. Now the next and the most important factor of any trail shoe, at least for me, is the grip. I like to have big lugs because that way if I'm scrambling and I'm climbing on stuff, I'm not going to be slipping. You want something that sticks to the rock. Now, if you're just going on really simple hikes or flat trails without climbing peaks or whatever, then maybe you look at getting one with a lesser grip on it. It'll be lighter, that's for sure. And that's what we've got here. So these ones are street runners, and then this goes over to trail runners. So if we look at the grips over here, this is an Asics, and well, these are worn off completely because I've used them, as you can see, a ton. These ones are really comfortable, actually. These are Skechers Go Run. But these are just a good training shoe on soft trails. They're spongy, but the spongy grip is not good for the mountains. As we get over here, something like this Adidas Teryx has terrible cushion, but actually had pretty good lugs on it. So the Saucony Mad River, this one, it's worn down, but this one had good lugs on it. If we take a look at these Hokas, they have a different kind of grip. This one's gotten kind of obliterated, but it once did have great grip on it too. The Innovates here, you can see it has a different pattern. I don't really like this squared off pattern. I don't think it sticks as well onto the rock. Chevrons are better. So here's an example of chevrons, except this one is completely worn off. This is the same shoe, just in black, you can see here. So that's a chevron there, those little triangles, but this one is once again completely worn off. And my Topo Athletics, this has a different pattern on it, but I find this works really well. It's kind of got some mini chevrons there and then some kind of diagonal squares and a lot of heel action there. So the key is to look for a shoe where you can see the lugs or these pieces of rubber sticking off of the shoe noticeably like this. So you can actually see the shadows. And if you want to get into the measurements, like a 5mm lug is pretty good. And just to take a look at the grip of hiking boots, they vary quite a bit. And these are both Merrells. This one went with these diagonals. This one's got these ovals. I found this one, once these end pieces here wore off, it just became really slick and not very grippy at all. So I think this is a better design for sure. Now, the most important factor of picking a trail shoe is something that most people are making a mistake with, and picking shoes that are wide enough. This isn't anyone's fault. It's basically the manufacturers have been making shoes way too skinny for way too long. So the typical shoes like this is a knockoff, a Chinese knockoff of a Salomon, but you can see it's a very slim shoe, and the problem with this is your toes get crunched like this, and often there's a steep slope there, and you see the steep slope here as well, and your toes are getting crunched in like that, when really you should have your toes be able to open up and grab onto the ground. And so if we go across these, in general my shoes are always wide because my feet are wide, but you can see these ones are noticeably wider for sure, but this one still has a sloped toe. And so once I fixed the width problem, I realized, yeah, the toe is actually a major problem. And that kind of led me this way to this, which is the Topo Athletic. This is the MT4s. So we look at this Salomon knockoff versus the MT4. You can just see how much wider this is, and this slope is so much wider. This has got like negative space right here. This just goes back to what I was talking about before. You want your toes to be nice and wide like this shoe allows, so your toes can flare out. They're not being crunched into a little ball. Often hikers get problems with pain in their foot, in their ankles, and they don't know why. Having your toes crunched like this is one of the major reasons. So I've enjoyed all of these shoes. These Topo Athletic ones are my new favorites now. And I just ordered another pair, but not of the MT4s, but of the Ultra Ventures. So I'll be doing a comparison of this one, the MT4, to the Ultra Adventures. Topo has a lot of different shoes, and I switched them because they just have such high ratings. Everyone is switching over from Ultras to Topos right now because the construction quality of those are just a lot better. I ordered the Ultra Adventure 3s because they're the most cushioned Topo versus that one there, which is a lot thinner, less cushion, but more tactile feel. So I'll be able to compare the kind of the two worlds. There's a simple test you can do at home when you're just barefoot or wearing socks to just kind of understand what I'm talking about with having your feet either crammed together or open. What you can do is stand normally and have your toes crammed together like that you would have in a shoe. And what you want to do is take a step behind you like this. Keep your toes together as if it was in that shoe. So you're stepping like that. Now do it again, but open your toes up like this, and when you rotate and grab with all your toes and see how that feels. I assure you, I know how goofy that looks by just watching it. If you try it, just do it like a turn where you're turning back up about 270 degrees and stepping and grabbing with wide toes versus compressed. You'll feel exactly what I'm talking about, where you have a tactile grab on the ground. And when you're hiking, that's what you're doing. You're stepping over rocks, you're pivoting, you're rotating. You're not just walking on a perfectly, railroad track. Now, the best part of switching over to something like these Topos is that you're just going to end up with less ankle injuries, less foot problems, because you're going to be strengthening your feet as you're hiking, versus the opposite if you're wearing something really crammed together like Salomon's. For me, I can't even wear those shoes. They are so tight. They're just such a skinny shoe. There's other brands out there too, like Ultras, which I've heard they've made theirs a little bit skinnier now than what they used to make them. There's also Zero shoes and multiple others, but as far as I've heard, those Topos are the best ones. I'll link those up down below if you guys are interested, as well as a few other of these. I'll link up. The Hokas are good, the Innovates, and the Merrell Flights. While I do like these ones you can wear in the water, I found that they just wore out so easily on the sides there, and it had a lot of friction on the back, so I can't really recommend those Sauconys. If you're looking for some rubber boots with some holes in them, I'll link these up down below as well. Hopefully you learned a little bit about shoes, trail runners, and what to look out for. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you have any further questions, leave them down below, and I can make other videos on that. I'll see you guys on the next one.